Are you worthy to be followed? Are moms and dads, grandpa and grandmas, are they willing to point to you and say, grow up to be like him or her? The number one hurdle for Donald Trump is, I've never met a dad or a mom or a grandpa or a grandma who have told me they want their son or daughter or grandchild to grow up to be like him. That's a big deal.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and I've never met a dad or a mom or a grandpa or a grandma who have told me that they want their son, daughter, or grandchild to grow up to be like Donald Trump, and that's a big deal. An Iowa evangelical leader, Bob Vander Plaats, has taken his opposition to Donald Trump to a new level while doubling his support for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
What will your character be like under pressure? And what you're seeing from the former president is character being revealed. Character being revealed, first of all, with Governor Reynolds and what he did by cutting a video against her. Two of the most popular governors and the most results producing governors in the country, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, and you completely throw them under the bus and you call them names, and that just because they don't bow the knee to you. That's not leadership.
Vander Plaats is the CEO of the Family Leader, an Iowa-based Christian organization. He has been a circuit-riding preacher on right-wing talk shows lately. Earlier this year, he asserted that he was finished with the twice-impeached loser, and it was time for America to turn the page.
Ron DeSantis with his wife Casey and their little children, a model family. It's an opportunity, and I think Iowa is going to see right through this. I've had people all over the weekend saying, I'm done. What he's done to you, what he's done to Reynolds, it's proven a lack of leadership.
His argument sounded good until he offered his alternative. Vander Plaats is a supporter of Ron DeSantis and thinks that DeSantis is the best candidate for the GOP nomination. He has a vision that Iowa is going to rise up and vote for DeSantis in the primary. The only problem with this reasoning is that putting finger DeSantis may or may not pull away from Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis is not the strongest of the Republican candidates. Bob Vander Plaats is delusional.
To me, Trump deserved to lose my endorsement. Matter of fact, I've never endorsed him, but he proved he was not worthy of the endorsement of me, of the ministry, and by extension, the broader body. And I believe Iowa will rise up. I believe Iowa will send a message on January 15, because I think they're seeing through this as well. This is smoke and mirrors. This is not leadership our country needs.
There's nothing special about Bob Vander Plaats' stance against Donald Trump. He's against Donald Trump, which is a good thing, but he is not offering any viable alternatives. The fact that he is supporting Ron DeSantis should speak volumes about his own agenda. Bob Vander Plaats supports a candidate who wants to destroy public education and who also started a culture war with Disney over diversity. Evangelicals want candidates that are committed to promoting injustice and oppression instead of pushing for legitimate legislation that would benefit everyone. The Republican candidates are not interested in working for the American people. They only want to line their own pockets and align themselves with their biggest campaign donors. The DeSantis campaign, which is a super PAC, donated $95,000 in recent months to the Family Leader. Could this explain why Bob Vander Plaats is going all out in support of DeSantis? It absolutely does. Bob Vander Plaats worships at the altar of the Republican dollar and not at the feet of Jesus. Donald Trump accused Vander Plaats of scamming candidates after he endorsed Ron DeSantis. As far as being a scammer, it certainly takes one to know one. The two are both delusional crackpots that are pushing the same agenda. There is not much difference between the GOP candidates when it comes down to it. They have all pledged to support Donald Trump if he becomes the nominee. The entire group are a bunch of puppets who will toe the Republican Party line without question.
Well, look, when you show intolerance towards everyone, which is what he does, you give permission as a leader for others to have their intolerance come out.
Another day, another Chris Christie blast at Donald Trump. This time, Christie said Trump deserves part of the blame for a surge in anti-Semitism.
Intolerance towards anyone encourages intolerance towards everyone. And that's exactly what's going on here. And that's been going on for quite some time, not just with Donald Trump, but with university professors on some of our most elite campuses in this country. You know, in the end, look, I think that there have been a lot of people who contributed to it, and I believe Donald Trump's intolerant language and his intolerant conduct gives others permission to act the same.
Chris Christie and other Republicans and Democrats point out Donald Trump's intolerance is on display in every other interview and speech.
We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
Nobody has any idea where these people are coming from, and we know they come from prisons. We know they come from mental institutions, insane asylums. We know they're terrorists. Nobody has ever seen anything like we're witnessing right now. It is a very sad thing for our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country.
Those phrases, poisoning the blood of our country and rooting out the vermin, are the same phrases used by Nazi Germany's Adolf Hitler. And historians note that when a leader uses hateful and loaded language, it inspires and enables citizens to embrace stereotypes and act on hatred as well. And we've seen that in talking with MAGA Republicans.
What's so bad about the migrants?
Cartel, drugs, fentanyl coming in. And Biden's put us in hell.
Aggravates me that they come into the country, they don't have any shots, they're just flying over, they don't check them for anything.
Close our border back up, make America great again like he did before.
You know, intolerance towards anyone encourages intolerance towards everyone.
And on this day, it wasn't just Chris Christie slamming Donald Trump for enabling and inspiring more hatred in the United States. Over on MSNBC's Morning Joe, the crew spoke about Trump's depiction of America.
How sick to say that America is a rotten nation before you're president of the United States. American carnage. And then you become president of the United States. And America has 4 of the most tumultuous years later. And the second he leaves and is defeated by the American people, he goes back to saying that America sucks again. Like, how grotesque.
The common denominator.
How grotesque that Donald Trump only thinks America is great when Donald Trump's president.
Yeah, because he doesn't care about America nearly as much as he cares about himself. I mean, that's the problem.
I'm sorry, Claire. I'm Claire. You could have stopped after America and could have just put a period there, because there is no evidence,
none,
over the last 8 years that I've ever seen that shows that Donald Trump cares a damn about America. He just doesn't. He cares about himself.
Now, while MSNBC's Morning Joe confronts the reality of Donald Trump, you will rarely hear any of this over on Fox News. Instead, Fox has generally shut out the harshest critics and criticism of Donald Trump, and that includes Chris Christie. Instead, on Fox, the focus is almost entirely on President Joe Biden. And the conservative talking point that gets repeated over and over is that Joe Biden is too old. The smear even gets embraced by Fox correspondents who throw it at President Biden himself.
Mr. President, are you too old to be running for re-election?
Stupid.
Why is Donald Trump beating you in the latest poll?
Okay, I would argue the questions are fair, and President Biden responded. But in a subsequent TV report, listen to how that Fox correspondent yelling the questions framed all of this.
The oldest president in U.S. history also continues to face questions about his age, even here in Nantucket.
The oldest president continues to face questions about his age, even here in Nantucket. But Lucas Tomlinson, the only reason the president faced that question is because you asked the question, something you neglected to disclose in your report. In other words, you asked President Biden about his age and then used your own question as proof. The president continues to face questions about his age. Oh, and Lucas, you also did it on Twitter. While shopping on Nantucket, President Biden was asked by a reporter if he is too old to run for re-election. That's stupid, he replied. Thankfully, readers added context they thought people might want to know. This post lacks context. The reporter that asks this question is this reporter, Lucas Tomlinson.
Mr. President, are you too old to be running for re-election?
Stupid.
Even stupider is a Fox reporter who won't just say, I asked President Biden about his age. Lucas, you are too young to be falling into the Fox News ethics-free cesspool. Just be honest. The bigger point in all of this is that a large portion of news consumers in America who only watch Fox are only hearing about President Biden's age. They are not hearing anything about Donald Trump's gaffes, cognitive meltdowns, or hateful rhetoric. And that helps explain in part why Donald Trump is still leading Republican presidential primary polls, and why a rival like Chris Christie faces such an uphill climb in gaining ground. However, Christie has gained some, and his approach in New Hampshire continues to be relentless.
I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who embarrasses us. I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who makes us seem small all around the world. I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who is the worst of our public discourse.
In New Hampshire, while hammering the former president without naming him, Republican Chris Christie reminded voters that Donald Trump's nomination does not have to be and should not be automatic.
I'm just unwilling to do it. And maybe in 9 weeks, you'll come back to me and say, see, I was right, you were wrong, you're naive, I'm smart. Maybe that'll be the way it'll work out. But it won't happen because I didn't try. And the greatest thing about this country is you want to try to change your country, you stand up and you go to work and you try to make it better and you set an example and you fight for the things you believe in. And that's what I'm doing every day up here and what I'm going to continue to do because I love this country too much for us to give up on it. And I'm certainly not going to give in to him.